Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Rosie here, back again. We have something to go over. Well, this is a video that I've wanted to make for a long time. Specifically since back in January when Ruin was changed and they cited a lot of these that were incorrect. And then I thought about making it again after the previous kill rates of 65% for red rank was unveiled. But I decided to hold off on it, and now this has been dropped, and we can't ignore this topic anymore. We can't just push this off to the wayside. This needs to be addressed. I want to talk about stats in Dead by Daylight. Not just stats, specifically developer stats. Okay? The difference between developer stats and independent researchers is, like, the DPIP squad was an independent research study. The perk study about another killer made on Reddit did a perk study of 100 games and prove it. But that's we got to get into that a little later anyway. But the difference between these studies is that all of these people just want the results. They just want the results. The dev statistics are manipulative. They are very, very, very driven towards an agenda that they are pushing, and they are definitely not accurate, okay? And the problem with these stats is they are being treated like they are accurate, and this is why we have to go into this. So as you can see, this was posted on Reddit. This photograph was, but the photograph in this picture are the things that the devs posted it to Facebook. I don't know if they've made the rounds on Twitter yet, but it's definitely on Facebook, and I actually have that photo saved. But this another picture came up today about this. As you can see, this is being treated as a victory by the survivors. The survivors are looking at these stats as proof of validation that that killers are they bitch too much, and like this is being treated as proof that the game is killer sided, and this. Treating the game like it's killer-sided leads to a lot of problems. And, like, there's a lot of issues. Like saying the game is even, or it's about around 50-50, that's one thing. Saying the game is killer-sided is a whole other awful thing to say. Because because saying it's killer-sided brings the whole discussion of God loops could come back. Like, there's so many things you could talk about by saying the game is killer-sided. So okay, but anyway, let's not get into that. I want to talk about stats. That's the reason that we have to go over this is because this is being treated as a win for survivors. The survivors are, and the devs only released this to piss us off. That's the thing. They don't care about this. They don't really care. They're doing this to piss us off, and they're doing this to, like, stick it to us who want a true balance in this game, and they're doing it to spite us. It's actually fucking disgusting. It's disgusting. And I guarantee you this was P-Nitus' idea. I guarantee you P-Nitus came up with this. It's disgusting, and it's manipulative. And before we get into this, we need to talk about, like, manipulative statistics as a whole. Okay? Manipulative statistics, I don't know if anyone doesn't know this yet. This is like a thing that you learn if you take science, or it's a thing you learn if you take a stats class in college. Statistics, like the manipulated statistics they're very tricky to have to deal with because they're technically accurate. Like, let me get that out of the way right now. I don't doubt this statistic. I don't doubt that I don't doubt this is real. I don't think the devs would just lie. Now, is it true? Could they be lying? Of course they could. Of course they could. But they were really happy with this number. And so I don't think this is a lie, because they are just really pushing this. And while it could be just a blatant lie, which is a whole other thing, we're going to treat it like a manipulated statistic. A manipulated statistic is a true statistic that actually doesn't mean anything if you further analyze it. That's basically what it is. It's more about feeding a narrative than providing you any true information. Okay? Devs have done this before. devs have manipulated data plenty of times before. The biggest example being the exhaustion. When we were talking about Dead Hard, when they nerfed Ruin, and they said, what about Dead Hard and DS and Borrowed Time? They responded with manipulated data, saying that Life and Self-Care were the two most used perks in the game. Again, the reason that's a manipulated statistic is that it talks about, it's about low level. Like, yeah, I don't doubt Self-Care is the most used perk in Dead by Daylight Survivor. I don't. I don't. Most survivors are bad, and they think Self-Care is actually good. And there's posts upon posts all the time about survivors yelling at each other to stop using self-care. I don't doubt that. But it's a manipulative statistic that doesn't show you anything about balance. It doesn't show you anything about the general health of the game. It's just bad players slapping on self-care because they think it's good. All right? That's what it is. So, and then, of course, Life being the most used exhaustion perk. The independent study done by the Killer Main disproved that using an actual statistically significant sample of 100 games. He proved that Dead Hard was used in 86 of them, which in a truly random, I don't know if anyone knows this, but in a truly random sample, 100 and above can be used as a reference for the entire population. So we know that about 86% of games now have Dead Hard in them, which is around the number that Ruin had. So that's kind of what that is. So we have knowing that the devs have a history of manipulating stats and releasing things that aren't true, we can now turn our attention to this. A 6,765,882 escapes versus 50,627,522 sacrifices. I've done the math on this. This is around a 13-14% escape rate. That is fucking pathetic. All right, that is fucking pathetic. And if you're a Survivor player, you should be ashamed by that result. Absolutely fucking ashamed, because that's pathetic with how much of an advantage you have, that you can't even scrap 20% escapes. Okay, now let's talk about what the stats should kind of be looking like. If you're balancing an asymmetrical game like this in a healthy manner, accommodating for top level, the killers should be winning. And the reason that the killers should be winning is that the survivors, like, since there's more survivor players, there's by law of averages more bad survivors. So more survivor players means more bad survivors, and we'll get into this in a second. So the killers should be winning. That's why the 65% was a little bit more believable, but then this is a truly manipulated number. Okay. And the 65% was also a manipulated number because Identity V has a healthier balance, and their number is around 70% killer wins. So, like, the devs can't even manipulate it to be around a healthy result. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into this. When you first look at this, you are a bit confused because the devs didn't put any, like, time. Like, what is this from? Now, based off their Twitter, I'm inferring that this is for the year, because they've been releasing a whole bunch of stats on Twitter, and it's been about this year. And now when they posted this on Facebook, they had no comment about the time frame. So I'm assuming this is 2020 and going forward to about right now. These are the total number of escapes and sacrifices that have taken place this year. Okay? The very, very first thing you have to keep in mind is we have to talk about a groundwork here. What system are we discussing? Are we discussing everything? Are we discussing mobile? Like, mobile's not a very optimal platform to play this game on. Are we talking about Switch? Because Switch has... I play on Switch. The Switch has a lot of frames per second drops that can really ruin a game. So, like, usually frame drops help the killer, not the survivor. Not gonna lie. But... So, like, so you have to immediately talk about what platform you're discussing this on. Like, now, given the tendency to treat mobile as a separate game, I have a feeling that this is about base game. It has nothing to do with the mobile device. So, and this is all inference. The devs haven't told us shit. But I'm assuming this is about PC, Xbox, PS4, Switch, Google Stadia. That's what I'm assuming the five are coming from. Okay. So the next thing that we have to do is we have to talk about rank. When you are going through this, you have to factor rank into the equation. If you're not factoring rank into the equation, you're getting skewed data. For real. Because let's talk about this. Let's talk about something I'm very, very, very happy to concede. If your argument is that low-rank killer is easier than low-rank survivor, absolutely. 100%. 100%. I would be very happy to concede that. Low-rank, I was ranked 12 within 2 weeks of playing this game. 2 weeks with no Hex Ruin when I started back in late 2018, early 2019. I was ranked 12 in about 2 weeks after playing Trapper, Myers, and the Pig. 3 killers that are not even out of mid-tier. And who are just drowning in it. 2 of them debatably in the low tier, that being Trapper and Pig. Two of those 3 debatably in the low tier. You know what? Fuck it. All 3 of those characters are debatably low tier. Low-rank killer is much easier than low-rank survivor. Because if you have 4 bad survivors on a team, you ain't getting shit done. The killer being bad and the survivors being bad, 4 bad survivors versus 1 bad killer, the killer will win that every time. The killer will win that just every single time. The survivors will be so slow in their objective, and perks like Whispers will definitely help a bad killer go in the right direction much better than any of these survivor perks, solo queue garbage help the survivors. And then the fact that low ranks can't make a rescue, the killers are definitely securing more kills. Lower rank killer is definitely much easier than lower rank survivor. Definitely. Not even close. So, but the thing about, we're talking about low rank, that's not the true balance of the game. That's not the true balance. Definitely not the true balance. You can't just say, oh wow, look at what the scrubs are doing to determine meta. So immediately, if it's a low rank game, if you're trying to get true statistics about balance, you throw all low rank games out. You throw them out. Done. They're done. You throw them out. But like, since those numbers are being looped in here, we're getting skewed data. Okay? So that's the very, very, very first thing. And next, we have to talk about matchmaking. Matchmaking in this game is a total fucking disaster. And I think we all know it's a total fucking disaster, because the MMR system hasn't come in yet. And we have to talk about the MMR later. But the total fucking disaster of a matchmaking system right now. The numbers can be very, very, very skewed. Getting 4 red ranks one game, 2 greens and 2 reds in another. The match versus a red rank killer versus maybe a purple rank killer versus 2 reds and a green and a yellow. There's so many. Like the concept of rainbow ranks has been happening since January. It really got bad after the Ruin change because a lot of killers started quitting. But the rainbow, like this whole thing started getting really, really bad. And it's still bad. It's the worst now than it's ever been before. But we gotta talk about how that affects balancing. Okay. Given what I just said about how 1 killer beats 4 bad survivors, here's a hypothetical scenario. Pretend you are a red rank killer and a survivor in low rank has been expanding out, and like you get a match. They finally get a match after like 35 minutes of waiting. You, a rank 1 killer, are against a rank 10, a rank 7, a rank 3, and then a rank 1. Who's going to win that game? You are a rank 1 nurse versus rank 10, rank 7, rank 3, rank 1. Who wins that game? The killer. And the killer does. Because the rank 1 nurse is going to down that rank 10 like no fucking tomorrow. The rank 1 nurse is going to down that rank 7 like no fucking tomorrow. The rank 1 killer is going to see that the rank 1 survivor is a good juker and immediately dodge. The rank 3, based on what I know about rank 3 survivors, they go down real fast too. So that rank 1 survivor that's actually good is definitely not going to be chased a whole bunch until the killer's already won. With a matchmaking system like that, yeah, that's going to be a 4K. Rank 10, rank 7, rank 3, rank 1. That's going to be a 4K for the rank 1 killer. And fuck, you don't even have to be rank 1. If a rank fucking 5 Spirit or a rank fucking 5 Oni is against that same group, the rank 5 Oni's probably going to win. Because that rank 10, that rank 7, they're going to go down. They're not going to be able to handle that. The rank 1 can handle it, and if it's a rank 5, the rank 3 will handle it. But, like, that's half of your team that's not as gen efficient, that's not as good in chase, might not have the right perks. There are so many, especially if you're on solo queue and can't communicate, like, that's a killer win. And that is a killer win. because of bad matchmaking. That has nothing to do with core balancing either. That's matchmaking. So any game that has bad matchmaking, you also have to throw out. But the devs haven't done that. Those matches are still in there. Manipulated data, of course. So we've already talked about that. We just talked about the matchmaking, about how low rank killers win, and we also talked about how if you get a bad matchmaking, low ranks. But it even extends further than that. If you get even one rank 10 versus 3 rank 1s versus a rank 1 spirit, that rank 10 is going to go down. And then, like, that's all it takes. Because we have to talk about Survivor. We have to talk about what Optimal Survivor is. Optimal Survivor is a car, okay? It's a fucking Ferrari, okay? If you, like, 4 tires on the Ferrari carry it to huge speeds, right? If you have a bad tire on a Ferrari, are you going to be able to go 90 miles down the highway? No, of course not. If survivors have one squeaky wheel, that can cause the 3 good wheels to just screw up. That's like a rank 1 spirit versus 3 reds and then one rank 7. That's all it takes for survivors to just fall apart. Survivor is what you call a glass cannon, okay? Survivor is called thank God they're called that now. Survivors are a glass cannon. Before they weren't a glass cannon. A lot of these balance changes have helped that. Survivors are a glass cannon. They should win the match. They have all the tools to win the match. But the killer now has the tools where if they stop the survivors early, it's going to be hard for the survivors to recuperate. It's very easy for the survivor role to just shatter. It's easy. It's easy for the survivors to shatter. It's easier for the survivors to shatter now than it's ever been. So you have to take that into consideration as well. Just good balance decisions have happened this year. I mean, again, it hasn't been perfect, but we've gotten some very good decisions this year. And those have definitely led to an increased kill rate and have made flimsier wheels even flimsier. Like, you could have a God Loop, and then, like, if the rank 7 could abuse the God Loop, the rank 1 Legion still can't touch them because they're at the God Loop. So, like, we've had some good decisions this year. So that rank 7 can't use that as a clutch to just no-skill juke the rank 1 Legion for fucking 12 seconds, for fucking 12 minutes. Like, that's the point. We've had some good decisions this year. And, so I expected the kill rates to be higher than they've been in a while because of the good decision-making. The good decision-making, increase in bad players, of course. You have to keep this in mind. More bad players equals more kills. So every time you get an increase in player base, you're going to see more kills. Because, again, as we just discussed, low-rank killer is easier than low-rank survivor. So if you get more new players coming in, because we've gotten a lot of new players this year. Silent Hill DLC, the God Loop fixes, lots of new stuff happened this year. And the player base is bigger than it's ever been before. More kills. All this means is you're going to see more kills. Because more players equals more bad players. More bad players equals more games where it's bad killers versus bad survivors. And more games like that equals more killer victories. There's so many reasons. And so, like, all those games that they're factoring in should be thrown out. But they're going to keep doing it anyway. Because it's easier to make the game look better than it actually is. Okay? Now, we got to go over this year, okay? This year has been an awkward year in real life as it has been for the game, okay? So, with factoring all that in, let's start with the top of 2020 and how we lead into now. The year started with Hex Ruin still in the game in its previous form. Okay, so we had a perk that was really good at wrecking scrubs. So a perk that was already contributing to the 65% kill rate that you were seeing. A perk that really, really wrecked scrubs. We had a ranking system that keeps letting scrubs higher and higher and higher, and then they can't deal with the top tier meta threat perk like Hex Ruin, as well as the Oni, who we can all agree is a top 5 character in this game. The Oni was the new killer at the start of this year. Very powerful character. Extremely powerful. So, when you factor all that in, like, you have the killers experimenting with a new top tier character, Ruin shitting on scrubs, just fucking shitting on them, and that was contributing probably to some higher kill rates because of how good the Oni was. Next, I don't know, around the time Ruin was being nerfed and stuff, they were talking about the tomes. So we have to have a discussion about tomes now. We gotta talk about why tomes hurt Survivor. Tomes don't hurt killer as much because most of the killer challenges are pretty standard. There's some dumb ones, sure, like there's one where you have to kill everybody with Devour Hope. That's not happening. But like, all in all, I don't know if you've read some of those Survivor challenges. Those Survivor challenges encourage survivors to play like assholes. Like, there's one challenge, the one I remember most vividly is work on 5 generators for 1 second. Like, and there's tons of challenges like that. And Ace is the character in the tomes right now. His perks suck ass. And, like, it's saying you have to win with Adept Ace. And, like, again, Adept anybody's just not very good because you don't get access to DS and Dead Hard. But, or Borrowed the time. But, the point is that, like, tomes encouraging survivors to play like assholes is really bad. Because even if you're a good survivor now, if you have Adept Ace in like, I don't know, Dead Hard or Borrowed time, you don't have DS. If you don't have Borrowed, if you have Dead Hard, you don't have Borrowed time or DS. If you have Borrowed, you don't have Dead Hard or DS. Like, you can just keep going. These tomes that are in the game very much hurt the survivor faction because it makes even good wheels a little bit squeakier. And good killers can really take advantage of that. If you're not running your meta, a killer could take advantage of that. Which is why a nerf for SWF I suggested is the perk pool. That's a whole other video. But like, because like one of the biggest issues and why Survivor's so strong is the ability to stack the meta. If you like have just bullshit restrictions on survivors like the tomes because they're trying to do dumb challenges because winning the game is no longer appealing to them because of how fucking easy it is, that they're trying to do dumb shit challenges, you're going to see higher kill rates. You're going to see higher kill rates because killers can't stick too far from their meta or they're going to die, like, really quick. Killers will lose the game really quick if they don't have at least 2 meta perks on their build. And even 2 is not enough. Even 2 is not enough. If you give up, if you don't throw Pop, like, Hex Undying ruins the meta right now, right? If you don't throw Pop in your 3rd slot, you're going to lose more games. And that's just a fucking fact. That's just a fucking fact. Okay. So, the tomes being in the game contribute to higher kill rates. Everything about this game, and this is something I'm going to be talking about later, everything about this game is designed to limit Survivor. They're doing everything to, like, limit Survivor instead of just fucking nerfing them. The tomes are an example. The ranking system is an example. De-ranking you upon a gen rush is an example. There's so many reasons why that, like, instead of nerfing Survivor and instead of providing the changes we need, they just say, hey, don't gen rush or we'll de-rank you. Like, fucking stupid. That's not a real change. That's not a real change that this game needs. But anyway, moving on. Next this year was the Shitslinger, and admittedly this chapter was not very impressive. For the People was the best thing to come out of it, and even then you don't see that very much. Shitslinger is a character that some people regard as bullshit, so there's a lot of people that have problems with him. I don't get that. But like, a lot of people regard Shitslinger as a very strong character in this game, and I don't get it. I don't see it. But like, his Shitslinger admittedly does have some decent 1v1 potential. So if he is not dealing with a team that hits the map, that 1v1 potential is gonna look good. Okay, we have, like, the new way that they're designing killers is very strong 1v1 potential, bad map pressure. Except for the Blight, who was an oddity, and the Oni. Half the killers this year, well, okay, Oni's a last year character, but like, half of the last 4 characters are designed to have good 1v1, bad map pressure. 2 of the characters, being Oni, Oni's being the best one because Oni has good 1v1 potential in his power and good map pressure. The Blight has good map pressure, bad 1v1 potential. But, like, the point is, when you're a team of survivors, sometimes, especially in solo queue, though, those 1v1 interactions that you have with the killer are sometimes the thing that can save you. For example, when you are on a team of, like, 2 bad survivors, 2 good survivors, 1 red rank killer, right? 2 red ranks, like, if Shitslinger having good 1v1 potential gets that rank 1 survivor down earlier than it would have if they were the Legion, the 2 on the gen, the 2 bad survivors could have really been slacking on gens. So maybe only 1 generator popped by the time the Shitslinger with his good 1v1 potential actually got to down the red rank. So you see why, even though Shitslinger isn't a very good character, the fact that he has good 1v1 potential could possibly be contributing to a higher kill rate this year. because as more and more bad survivors infiltrate the red ranks, you get less jellyfish and survivors, which means Shitslinger being able to actually down a red rank kind of quicker than some of the other characters can, that can really start to pile on when you have bad players in there. Of course, if you have good players, the Shitslingers get in Gen Rush, but with more bad players infiltrating these ranks, then that 1v1 potential can actually be good. So that happened, and many people are clamoring for Shitslinger to be nerfed, but, you know, whatever. Next, we have the God Loop fixes. They adjusted the Chapter 15 mid-chapter, the best chapter for this game in a very, very, very long time. Something that I'm still thankful for to this day. Fixing the God Loops. Adjusting those maps and fixing the God Loops was fucking huge. Like, you have no idea the impact that has had on this game. So much better than it used to be. Okay, so let's talk about that. The first thing is the obvious. Fixing the God Loops definitely caused survivors to struggle a lot, because no one could just loop the killer for like, they didn't have infinites anymore. Because that's what the God Loops were. They were infinites. They used to be infinites, but they just added the entity blocker to like not technically make them infinites anymore. They're just massive time wasters that the killer just can't really chase you on. So by getting rid of those, a lot of bad survivors lost crutches. They lost crutches. So that fucking rank, again, like we discussed, or that rank 6 survivor couldn't juke that rank 2 Legion anymore because he didn't have the God Loop. Like anybody that's decent can juke a good killer at the God Loop because the God Loops took no skill. Okay, so by getting rid of those, the game was impacted because those bad survivors definitely started dying a lot more, which led to higher sacrifice rates because they can't play. They could never play. They could just hang on to a God structure, sure. They could slam gens and hug their God structures. But as soon as you took that away from them, they were fucked. They were up shit creek without a paddle. So they definitely had to make some adaptations, which definitely caused higher kill rates because they had to figure out how to run new tiles. That definitely hurt. Like, it's very easy for good survivors to sit down and go, okay, this is definitely how you do this. Like, it's very easy for players like me, Phasner, Magic, all these fucking guys that are definitely good at killer and definitely good at survivor as well. Oatsvara, True Talent, everybody, like all the big names. It's very easy for the big names to sit down, look at this tile for 1 second and analyze what the fuck you're supposed to do at it. Very, very simple for us because we've been playing this game. Like, our sentences are like heightened. We know how to play this fucking game. So like, it's like, okay, you vault the window out of the new suffocation, but of course you go left because the killer is coming from the right. Because that's all because like, if the killer doesn't want to vault the window, he has to go right. So of course you turn left. Like, we know that off the top of our heads. But these scrubs and these babies that have somehow made it to, like, I don't know, rank 9 or rank 8, they don't know that. They don't know that. All their wait is for Daddy-O Tofu to make a video and tell them how to do it. Because they don't know how to do it themselves. So, they struggled to adapt. I'm damn well positive that they struggled to adapt. And so, that definitely contributed to higher kill rates. And then, even further, the less obvious, when the God Loops were fixed, plus 25,000 players came to the game when they fixed those loops. When they fixed those loops and adjusted the maps, plus 25,000 players. That was one of the game's biggest weeks for a while. Plus 25,000 players. So, more new players. Guess what more new players means, ladies and gentlemen? More new players, more deaths. Because bad killers beat bad survivors, as we've already discussed. Low-rank killers beats low-rank survivor. So, that contributes to another higher kill rate quota that needs to be thrown the fuck out. And then, of course, let's not forget, through all of this, before the God Loops were hit, when Hex Ruin was nerfed, a lot of killers quit. So, and guess which killers were quitting? The ones that were frustrated and probably losing a lot. Only, like, the most determined of us stayed. So, like, when that happened and Ruin was gone, and like, that awful, awful time for the game when I was coming on and just screaming every fucking time, that time for the game, the second dark times, the time that made Tie Time quit, that time, yeah. Everyone was like, everyone that was staying was good enough to not even fucking need Ruin. That's who stayed. The plus 25,000, a lot of semi-decent killers probably returned to the game. But like, that whole period, you were much more likely to find a good killer than a bad one. Because only the good ones were staying. Everyone that was like average was like, I'm getting the fuck out of here. Because this isn't fair. And you know what? They were right. They were right, it wasn't. It's still not. So like you have to all that to factor in. So what happened next? So the God loops are gone. Survivors are dying left and right because they can't adapt. And then you get the anniversary stream. And then you get Pyramid Head. That was the next thing that happened. You got Pyramid Head, a new high tier threat in this game. You had Pyramid Head, and even though we can fight about Pyramid Head till the cows come home, fucking, you know how much I don't think very much of him when I think his attack is reactable. That's just a fact. The punishment of the damned is reactable. The canceling, fucking Scrub Destroyer. We can all agree on that. What Pyramid Head brings to the table absolutely decimates people that are average. Like, you have to be good to deal with a Pyramid Head. You have to be good to deal with him. That canceling, that reaction time, you have to have good reaction time, and you have to like actually position yourself at a right tile. And if you're locked in any animation, that's a free hit for him. And of course, there are niche situations when if a tile is big enough, he actually can cancel and then use his speed to catch up. Which again, I don't consider that broken because again, 1v1 potential is not map pressure. You need map pressure to be good. Pyramid Head is good. And when he gets going, he can actually have a lot of pressure. But so like he's not a bad character. But the point is, we got a new high tier threat for this game. So when survivors lost their god structures, dying left and right, can't handle the adaptions, you now have a new high tier threat you have to worry about. Pyramid Head comes in this game, undisputed top 10, some people say top 5. A new character in this game that is extremely good. What do you think was happening to survivors during this time? We have a bunch of new players, and of course Silent Hill bringing in even more new players, I'm sure. Don't have that number, but I'm sure that was bringing in even more new players. And what did new players mean for Dead by Daylight? New players mean more kills. By catering to new players, like this is the thing, a common criticism we throw at the devs. They have this business model that caters to the new players. It's a revolving door system. By catering to these new players and continuing to just bring in new players, you will feed the death rates. The devs, through their business model, are artificially inflating the kill rate. And then, of course, you have COVID. Which, again, I'm not saying COVID contributed to higher kill rates, but all I'm saying is people inside all the fucking time probably led to more people trying Dead by Daylight. And guess what happens when a new player tries Dead by Daylight? They die. Because they suck. And it's okay. A new player sucking is okay. I don't just expect them to be good. Those are just facts. It's the devs we're mad at for lumping them in with the rest of us, with these stats, to manipulate to manipulate all of us into thinking the game is different. So like, you have all this shit going down. Pyramid Head's in the game. He's running rampant. What was the next big thing that happened? There was a bug for survivors. I forget how long that hill bug was in the game, but there was a bug. There was a really bad bug. One of the worst bugs for this game in a long time, where if a survivor or a killer was near one of the hills, they got stuck. And again, when there's 4 people running around the map, and again, when there's 5 bad players in the game, 4 of the bad players are on survivor. And if they don't know about that bug, easily get stuck. And all you have to do is get stuck for your team to fall apart. And that one means to talk about disconnects. Even if a survivor disconnects, the whole team falls apart. 1 DC, 3 sacks, that's being counted as a sacrifice. 50 million sacrifices this year. 1 survivor DCs early game because they got down even though the game was still alive, and they were mad at the killer because the killer, like, I don't know. Maybe I don't know. It's a killer they don't like, Doctor, and then they get down early and just say, fuck this, I'm leaving. And even though a gem was done and the game was still alive, the survivor just left. And then guess what? 1 DC, 3 sacks. Or maybe 2 DCs, 2 sacks. Like, all the DCs are being factored in here as well. But based on the inferences, all you have to know is that the DCs are happening. And then, of course, talk about things that shouldn't have happened. There's the games where the survivors win and then they're overly altruistic and then come back and then lose. You got to factor those games are all being counted as well. Like remember that pig game I had where the survivors popped the gens in 3 minutes and then were overly altruistic and ended up all dying? That game? Or was that a 3K? I'm not sure. The point, no, that was a 4K. The point is, if the survivors just chose to left, if the survivors just chose to leave, that was a survivor win, wasn't it? Or was it a tie? I can't remember off the top of my head. The point is that like they ended up getting 4K because they were overly altruistic and came back for their teammates when they shouldn't have. That's what happened. So you gotta factor in those games like that too. Like there's the survivors who had already won the main game are just trying to come back and get bonus points, and then they end up dying. That's not true balance. That's just survivors getting punished for disrespect. That's not true balance either. But again, we're talking about the stupid hill bug, right? So the hill bug is there, which again could contribute to escapes, but like again, when there's 5 players on a map and 4 of them are on survivor, it's more likely that a survivor is going to get stuck to a hill than the killer is. Especially since that news of that hook bug got around pretty fast to those in the community. But if you're just a casual, again, if you're a casual in this game, you're more likely to be on survivor just because of how it works. 5 players are in a match, 4 are on survivor. The casuals probably going to be on survivor, probably going to get stuck. Especially since there's like, the killer only usually goes up on a hill to like hit, there's some gens on hills, but like sometimes there's chests on hills, balanced landings. Killers usually only go up on the hill when they have something to go lure them up there. Survivors are the ones that will be leading them toward the hills, going up to the hills for a chest. That bug was in the game for a little bit too. And then of course the sync error happened and everyone quit for a little bit. I don't know, that impact. But like this game's had a lot of problems. And then of course there was the horrendous MMR attempt this year. There was that horrendous MMR where the matchmaking got totally fucked because the devs implemented the MMR system incorrectly. And the matchmaking was totally fucked, where a bunch of rank 1 killers started playing against a bunch of rank 20s. And again, it was possible for 4 red rank survivors to play against a bad killer and then all escape. That was also true. But, again, as we discussed before, 2 bad survivors, 2 good survivors versus 1 good killer, the fucking killer will win. 2 bad survivors versus 2 good survivors versus a bad killer. The killer still has a chance of 4K'ing. Because if they just down those, because bad killer beats bad survivor. So if the bad killer downs and beats bad survivor, and the gens are not getting hit fast enough because bad survivor went down really fast to bad killer, the gens, like, that's 1 down, only 1 gen done, the killer's starting to do well. So it's like, it's equally possible. So the MMR, by the nature of how the matchmaking and MMR system works, it's more likely for survivors to get a bad game than bad killers. Because the survivors have to have 4 good wheels. If they have 1 bad wheel, the entire engine falls apart because of how the nature of the glass cannon roll. Now again, we can talk about that till the cows come home, and the true balance of the game, Survivor isn't actually glass cannon-y enough. They need to become more glass cannon-y. Like, I know what Survivor is. It's a glass cannon, but they need to be, they're kind of like a, by glass cannon right now, they're that really strong glass that you have to they need to be a plexiglass, but they're not. They're like actual glass. Never mind. That's a bad fucking metaphor. Let's just fucking leave it. So yeah, you had the bad MMR, which again, that benefits killer. That definitely benefited killer for higher kill rates this year. Because, again, as we discussed earlier, how by the nature of matchmaking and how the game works. Next, crossplay. Crossplay directly put PC against console. Who does that favor? Which role does that favor? If you're a PS4 player, now again, PC does have an advantage, but they have to be optimized. The gap between PC and PS4 is only different on certain characters, but that's beside the point. But the point is, you are now we have an even more ludicrous scenario where you can be a rank 1 PC nurse versus a rank 3 Xbox player, rank 1 PC survivor, rank 4 PlayStation 4, rank 7 Switch. Who's winning that game? Only one has experience against actual nurse. Who's winning that game? Or like a Huntress. PC Huntress versus 4 console players. Who's winning that? And the console players are like barely red. Who's winning that game? And again, like a rank 4 PC. Like, it doesn't have to be rank 1. Like a decent PC Huntress, fucking rank 5, rank 4, rank 3 versus fucking 2 reds and 2 purples who are all on console and have never played a good Huntress in their life. Who's winning that game, ladies and gentlemen? What's the result of that game? A 4K. Of course it is, because the survivors that are on console have no experience against PC-optimized killers. Which again, when you're a PC-optimized killer and you're dealing with 4 console scrubs, that's going to feed into the damn kill rate. Now again, I play on console. I play on Switch and PlayStation 4. I'm not saying all console players are bad. All I'm saying is fully optimized Nurse is something I've never played against. I've never played against an optimized Nurse or an optimized Huntress. I played some good Huntresses. I've never played a good Nurse. Never. That Nurse is the only good only character I have not played a good player of yet. And that contributes to the higher kill rates. And of course, this console versus PC in general. PC, especially if you're playing against a Switch player. If there's a Switch player in your lobby, Switch players have a very bad frame rate for the game. Extremely, extremely bad. So if you get even one Switch player in your PC lobby, that player's fucked. No Switch juke a PC fucking killer. 100 sensitivity on Switch is also worse than 100 sensitivity on even the PlayStation. If you get a Switch player, that Switch player cannot juke, has less optimized experience, because the Switch player base, I promise they're worse. Like that, this stuff does contribute to the kill rate. And then, of course, you have where we are now, which is the Blight and Hex Undying, which is a new meta shift for killer. Hex Undying, apart from the Godloop Nurse, Hex Undying was the biggest buff killers have gotten in a long time. So we have the biggest nerf for survivors in a very long time, combined with the biggest buff that killers have gotten in a long time, and Hex Undying, all in the same year. Of course the kill rate looks like this. Combined with all the new players, all the stuff that's happening with it, of course the kill rates look like this. Of course they do. And notice one thing we haven't talked about, general game balance. Because this rate right here has nothing to do with general game balance. Nothing. Absolutely goddamn nothing. And guess what? The devs like that. They like it. They like it a whole bunch. The ranking system right now, and again, and then of course it's like, oh, why are we talking about rank? Rank doesn't mean anything. You know why rank doesn't mean anything? Because we have a ranking system that values experience over skill. As a survivor, you can fucking die in a match and still rank up. You can get outplayed, die, but if you've done enough in the game, you can still rank up. Okay? This allows bad players into red rank games. This allows bad players into red rank games. So it's harder and harder and harder to get top level analysis. It's harder to get a tournament scene going. It's harder to make good balanced decisions because of, again, this isn't the only reason. Map RNG is terrible, but another reason it's harder and harder and harder to see fully optimized groups is because the ranking system pushes scrubs forward. It pushes scrubs up to prevent Survivor from being played optimally. We have a system right now that just doesn't let Survivor work. If you don't let Survivor work, like this is the thing, like people are like, well, why would you want that? Why would you want that to work? Because we can't get the changes we need unless Survivor is allowed to work. And this ranking system, combined with the fact that survivors can depip if they gen rush too effectively, like the tomes, everything in this game is designed to hinder the survivor role. They are using matchmaking to cripple the survivor role. They are not letting it happen. They're not letting 4 survivors go in together that are actually good. And if you do, you're an SWF. Because that's the only way that it can happen. The thing that's going to happen with MMR is that if you get paired with players of your MMR, you'll see that solo queue, although does need buffs admittedly, is very possible to happen. We'll have to watch those games from the DPIP squad as well. There's only been 2 studies that have ever happened where it was 4 optimized survivors versus red rank killers. It was called the DPIP squad, and the survivors fucking crushed the killers. 98% of games were Survivor hard victories were the killer D pick. That's the only study that's ever been done. So this 13% escape rate is pathetic given what we know already about optimized Survivor. And this is a statistic that the devs like. They like seeing this number. They like posting this number. They like flaunting this number. It's designed to make you think the game is more balanced than it is. And fuck, with a number like this, the game looks fucking killer-sided. But you have to study it because it's manipulated numbers. This is the best year for the game in a long time. Can it be better? Absolutely, it could be better. But this number is designed to tell you that they're not going to change anything. They're not going to put the gen. They're in no hurry to get that early game mechanic in. No goddamn hurry. They're in no hurry. They're like, look at how much better the game is from what it used to be. You remember the dark times? Remember how bad that was? Look how much better it is. Fuck, Killer looks broken if you look at this. And it's just not. Because there's so many things out. The only thing that's not contributing to this number is general game balance. What this shows you is how good of a job the devs have done at hiding it. At hiding how bad the balance is. Through their system, for their ranking system, their flurry of, mostly the ranking system. Through the ranking system, the matchmaking system, all the stuff that's happened, their business model of letting new players in so they'll go in and just get killed. Like there's like this, when you prioritize new players over the veterans, you'll see rates like this. Everything outside the game is contributing to this number and nothing inside the game. The devs have done nothing but just work so hard to inflate the kill rate without actually spending any money to nerf or buff characters. It's really, really insane. It's crazy how far they're willing to go to make Killer look stronger than it is. It's insanity. It's insanity. And what's really scary is that this is going to be enough for them. This is going to be enough to satisfy all the survivors and just like convince killers even more to shut their mouths and not speak up about how bad the game is. Seriously, this is all done with manipulative intent, and it's clearly working based on this Reddit post. People that can't reason beyond a third grade level are really getting fooled by this. And as long as the ranking system, matchmaking system are the way they are, and they continue to have this new player business model, lack of a competitive scene, map RNG continuing to make a competitive scene harder and harder, they're not going to see they're not going to see the true balance of the game. Because why would the devs do that? Why would they spend money on a competitive scene, money on buffs, money on reworks? Why would they spend all the money to do that when they could just hide behind these manipulated stats and then keep the team to work on the next DLC to get even more of your money? Why? It's more beneficial for the devs to do what they're doing right now than to actually fix the game. Fixing the game is the fucking most expensive option that they have. To hide and dance around the truth, keep people thinking that the game is balanced through a ranking system that lets bad fucking pieces of shit players at top level competing against some of the best killers that the game has to offer. This is the problem. This is like it's everything but game balance. It's everything but game balance. And it's tricking the weak-minded. Don't be fooled by this fucking nonsense. Keep fighting for balance changes that will make the game better. Because shit like this is exactly the fucking problem.